Welcome. My name is Douglas Getz, and you've found your way to the Diving and Thriving podcast. Here, we have enlightening conversations about how we can better navigate this sometimes crazy world we live in. From refreshing spiritual perspectives to tips about personal growth, the focus here is about how we can become better human beings. So I'd like to thank you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, Dr. G, Dr. Kevin Gyurina. Gyurina, let's go. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
Well, I'm doing good, and I gotta tell you because we just talked about it. It's Gyurina, and
Gyurina.
it's a has to do with how different sounds come from other languages of the cultures, and so where the name is from, it's a yer sound, but we don't have a yer in our language in English in America here, really. So, Gyurina, but if I was going to go back to Hungarian roots, it would be Gyurina.
Gyurina.
Like a rolling. I can't even do
Gyurina.
it. Gyurina.
Gyurina.
And I learned that from a Hungarian, someone who had moved here to U.S. in their 40s, I believe. And so they were telling me all kinds of things about my national culture that I didn't know about.
Oh, and what culture is it?
So I'm partially Hungarian and partially Norwegian, and in that Norwegian, there's a little bit of German Irish slash, I guess, a little English, kind of the whole region of the European mix.
Yeah, cool,
Yeah,
man. Yeah,
yeah,
well, it's I'm happy to get you on. You know, when I met you at the business networking meeting, maybe like a month or two ago now,
yeah,
what you spoke about in health and everything being connected and vibrations and frequencies, it was like, oh, this guy's cool. This guy's on it. This guy knows something. And you and then the other gentleman that sold high vibrational microgreens, I was like, oh, this
hmm
is a good group. These guys know some things. They're on it.
yeah,
And yeah, the whole idea that everything in health is kind of intertwined was something that I've resonated with.
yeah,
And so yeah, when we sat down picking your brain and whatnot, I was like, oh, this is a good guy to get on the podcast. We could dive into
yeah.
it some more.
Well, I love talking about these concepts because there's these points in time in history that for I grew up like every other kid, with the public school, went to your 6 month checkup for your dentist, everything you're supposed to be doing in life, and yet I came across these different, like, I don't know, call them waypoints, these little marker points in life that open up my mind. And what I've recognized is that there's something about where I come from that attracts me to that, to expand upon it further. And that's kind of like why I like talking about history, but then it kind of lays over to the future. Though our health, our mind, our body, it's all intertwined to all of this. That's what's
Yeah.
so wild. I had no idea getting into this work to fix people's pain and bodies, because
Yeah.
it helped me, and where it took me in the world of like philosophy and metaphysics and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get started in kind of going down that route? Because I know where we're at in the Western world, it's everything's kind of localized. Like you got an issue with your shoulder. Okay, let's fix what's going on with your shoulder. Or
Right,
let's fix this issue with your hip. Let's go in and have surgery on your hip. And not
right.
necessarily asking like, what's your diet like? What's your daily life like? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? And all these things kind of affecting the body and whatnot. So how did you get on the Eastern medicine kind of pathway with everything being connected and all that?
Well, it really started with a period of my life, I'd say probably between 10 years old and 15, where I just had a lot of injuries,
Mm.
just from playing around in the woods to messing around on a basketball court, falling down, getting injuries. Then, in traditional sports, from baseball, soccer, football, just had collected a lot of injuries. And then one big one with my hand, I had torn a ligament just dunking on a basketball net, and I had got my fingers stuck in the net. I tore some ligaments, and in that repair, I had to go through numerous surgeries and then go through physical therapy. And I just was really interested in like, oh, I could do work instead of like sitting behind a desk or whatever, just by helping people learn to move their body again after injury. And that just seemed like it made total sense for me. I just love being outside. I love playing. I love playing sports. I love the physical side of life. You know, for those that are aware of the kind of learner people are, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I like hands-on learning.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I played sports in college. That's how I kind of got into college. Yes, you go when I grew up, it was kind of like that's what you do. You go to high school, you go to college.
Yeah.
So how do I pick a college? Like I was just, happy getting C's in class but I love playing sports. And so sports was the ticket.
Oh yeah.
I had the kind of size and skill set that I had some um, uh, inklings of potential pro capabilities. I
Yeah.
got a lot of awards my senior year in high school. Anyway, college football. And in that, I just picked physical therapy as my degree. And to graduate, so I was exercise sports sciences, but I had to go do, I guess, about six months of working in a clinic that was doing physical health care. So all the resumes I put out, only one accepted me. So I was putting resumes at the physical therapist and chiropractors and gyms.
Yeah.
A chiropractor hired me, and I was teaching their physical therapy to their clients. But in that, I got to witness what chiropractic actually is and does. And it's nothing I knew about, nothing I heard about. And anything I asked other people about what chiropractic was, it's not what the chiropractors were actually saying. So everyone's like, oh, yeah, headaches, neck pain, back pain. And yes, they help that. But there was a much grander experience I was witnessing people go through. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to do that. And so what did I learn was, yes, I help people's pain, but people who came in with like stomach problems and breathing problems and headache problems and allergy issues, they were getting better too.
Oh yeah.
And it had to, and now I understand why, but it has to do with how the whole body talks to itself and then, kind of gives back information. And it's the healing reaction. Everyone knows about stress response, but there's a healing response in our body. And that's governed and coordinated by the brain, the spinal cord, all the nerve tissue. Think of it as communication tissue. So that's constantly, just like your computer or a phone, there's information being sent and received all the time between your computer and the internet and the Wi-Fi router and all the different ways things are sent and received. And it's
Yeah.
going on automatically all the time. But
Yeah.
you got a window in front of you looking at one thing, maybe two things.
Mhm.
And then if you're like, man, you got 100 tabs up, but you can't keep track of all that.
Yeah.
But our body's doing it automatically anyway, all the time. So that's how I got into it. And as while I was witnessing all these people get well in unique ways, in addition to ankle pain, back pain, headache pain, I started getting my care. I wanted to try it out for myself.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting about my story is that I was still playing college football. And so I was getting like measured on my speed, my strength, my grades were being tracked, my endurance was being tracked, and every marker, as soon as I started getting adjusted, every marker improved. I just got better at every level, every way. And looking back at my story of head injuries and just being a roughhouse kind of outdoor in the nature exploring things, um, it makes total sense that my body had a lot of wear and tear, and it was like pinching off the communication supply.
Yeah. Yeah. Sports take do a number on the body. Like I see the professional football players and some hits that they take. It's insane. And they do a whole game like that. The linemen are nuts. It's
Yeah.
just constantly hitting back and forth, just pressing the joints together. And yeah, yeah, it's a rough thing. Like I tore my ACL twice, three times. Twice doing football and then one other time on the soccer field running around.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, long recovery. And you don't really realize how nice it is to be healthy.
Right. Right.
How
And
much we appreciate that.
and anyone who's been sick or injured or has been out of the count for a couple of days, really appreciates getting well. And you can watch your progress once you make that turn. You can feel that day by day progression. Like, oh, I am getting better. And
Yeah,
it's like you're not doing anything special besides making sure you're eating according to how you feel and you're sleeping when you sleep. And all that. This is total really cool automatic quality to it.
Yeah, yeah. The body doesn't. You don't have to teach the body how to heal itself.
Right. You just got to make sure you put the right stuff in. That's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's honestly that's like a major problem or one big issue. It's just what you put in it. You know, it's
yeah.
yeah, making sure you're fueling it with some good things. Um, all that. Yeah, yeah. It's processed foods are rough. Even soda. I'm shocked at how many people drink soda regularly and often.
Well, it's a slippery slope of taste and flavor as a value
Yeah.
versus what goes on. And
Uh-huh.
I really, I don't know if I did it on. I kind of did it on purpose, but as I started, studying all the things I study, and this is where, well, the internet is the internet. You can find everything. So I would watch videos where people would, put a loose tooth in soda and see what happened to it,
Mm.
or they would clean their bumper with soda and get a really great shine on the bumper. And so, like, me just, it's like for any topic, if you're into cooking, you're going to watch people who are experts in cooking. You're going to pick up great knowledge. So, unbeknownst to myself, because my football and my desire for improving my own body from tremendous accidents. It's like a football game. One game is equivalent between 3 to 5 car accidents of like physical injury.
Yeah.
And so, how we take care of it as athletes, before 8th grade, and whether we're doing pickup games or we're playing rec leagues or we're playing, high school sanctioned sports, like there's wear and tear on the body that we don't necessarily know is building up till it hits that critical point where it kind of, yes, it can fracture, but breakdowns, it becomes, inflamed and gnarly. And next thing you know, we're on this cascade. If we follow the traditional route of how we approach it, we take painkillers, which basically just makes everything's worse over time. And then they're just being placated till we have to get surgery. And then we're on all these medications versus caring for the frame, fueling it, feeding it really good foods, spending time relaxing and healing, being in the sunlight, being around community. Because I've learned health is way more than just eating the right food. It's way
Yeah.
more than just that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's very much three dimensional. There's a lot of aspect to it. And one that you even mentioned just now is being in your community, like being around people, having a good social aspect and making sure that you don't feel alone or isolated.
yeah. It is
That's one
critical.
that I don't really touch on too much because I always think of exercise, eating well, like resting. But the social aspect too is a really big one. Yeah.
It is a big one, and we're all in different places, at different times, and there's the parts of the healing journey require aloneness, being that in that solitary place. Part of healing is also being surrounded by people that you love and you vibe with, and you're on the same mission about. Whether it's building a sandcastle, like you can do a healing moment no matter what age you are, just going to build a sandcastle at the beach with a couple other people, so you accomplish something. You learn to work together. Yeah, and there's great fun in it, and yet it can just be blown away, and you can let it go. It's such a great lesson. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, getting vibe with certain people in your community, and looking for different kinds of community.
Yeah. Yeah. That community aspect is really big. I remember reading a book and this one community really had almost no heart problems. I forget which
Mm,
community it was. Um, but they had really almost no heart problems. And a guy went in to go study them, and they weren't doing anything special, but the person just this day was just walking around the neighborhood, chatting with the neighbors, stopping, talking about how's your family, how's your kid doing in school, going to the market, talking to people there, going over, dropping off some food or dropping off something to a different neighbor, chatting with
right,
them,
right.
and then picking their kids up and seeing the kids bring their friends, and it was a big social aspect to it, a big coming together just all throughout their day. And the conclusion was all of that is good for health. It makes
Right,
you
right.
feel good.
100%. Well, think about it for a minute. What's your experience like when you're going around? You have enough in your pocket to take care of somebody else, You're saying hello, you're checking in, people are being warm back. What's that like?
Yeah, it feels good.
Man, it feels good.
It's
You
good.
know, one of the best classes I ever took, this is postgraduate work, was you looking at different descriptive words to just, and we'll just use your experience of like going around saying hello to your neighbor, checking in. Like, what's the descriptive terms? What temperature would that be? Does that sound like a cold temperature? Does that
No,
sound
that's
warm?
warm. That's
Right,
warm.
right.
Yeah.
Does that, if I was going to use like dimensions, does that sound like a round, a square, a triangle? What kind of feel
Well,
description of shape does that feel
yeah.
like?
Yeah. I would say round.
Round. It's kind of like, oh yeah, it's nice, smooth. I
Yeah.
can get my hands on
It's
that.
smooth.
Right. And does that sound like a small thing? Does it sound expansive? Does it sound light? Does it feel heavy? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so when we can relate this how it feels, the communication, how descriptions of the sensation, we can then hone in on, well, what else in life feels like that, and we can make
Yeah.
choices based on the feeling of things. That's
Mhm.
the intuitive side of life,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vibe of things, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That intuitive aspect is
Right,
big. Yeah.
right.
I
So
think,
that's what the community can bring.
yeah. 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 And I think we can kind of get away from that intuitive aspect because we can get caught up in all the things we have to do or know we have to do, know we should do. And all those things are good, but it is nice to just go with your intuition at times and what feels right. How do I want my day to go? What sounds attractive?
Right, right. Well, so what I hear in your comment there is like the balance between the structures of life and the flow within the structures of this life, right?
Yes.
And that's a question I learned this from Stephen Covey. He's an author, Seven Habits of High Effective People, which iterates on all kinds of previous work by like people, kind of like a Tony Robbins would study Napoleon Hill or
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what's some other authors I'm just totally blanking on right now. But there's a lot of uh, authors you'd see in the 1880s, 90s, early 1900s that talk about consciousness and development of an idea into a functioning aspect of your life, whether it's a business, a relationship, whatever it may be. Um, but where's it going into? But all that kind of runs around the concept of the mind and how we feel about things, because feelings, the sensation of things, magnetizes an experience.
Yes.
So think about the word magnetize. And what are we attracting, right?
Yeah.
And if it's heavy and it's hard and it's sharp and it's gnarly and all those descriptive terms, sandpaperish, like, do I want more of that in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. That's a good point.
So I really hone in on my work with my clients, and the things I put out there for people to connect to is like, what's the vibe of things? And it's the art of identifying that and the art of shifting that within so we can attract other type of experiences. And of course, when we have those good things like the community you were describing, there's other areas of life, but we can cultivate what the feeling is that we want in each of those areas of our life. And then lo and behold, as we move along in our day-to-day operations, things to start coming about that meet the
Yeah.
positive vibe. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely nice to follow that route.
yeah,
I've seen that a lot. I'll go to music festivals, and I'm at times I break off from my group. I'll go wander about solo and just explore and like see what I find and what I get into. And then there's times when I'm floating through the crowd and I'm like deciding where I want to go. And so I'll look out at the crowd. Thankfully, I'm a little taller. I'm like pretty much 6 foot. And so I get to look through the crowd and I say, which group seems the most fun?
that's right.
And then I gravitate toward that group. Oh, this group's got some good dance moves and they're jumping around. Let me go join them. And so I'll join them and then I'll have a good time with them and then I'll feel like, all right, I'm ready to continue. And so I keep going and I do that again and like bounce around and slowly make my way toward the front. And then I find my friends there. And I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, how about that? It's,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's happened so many times.
Well, music festivals are great. it's a great snippet to then take your experience and but apply it to all of life, all the different areas of life. And we just haven't spent as much time defining those other areas of life. But the experience of music, I mean, you're all there on a same mission, same purpose, whatever that level of enjoyment is. And then you're going, well, which aspect of it connects most
Mm-hmm.
simply, most easily, most flowingly.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Is that a
Yeah.
word? But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then you have the experience because you're open. You trust your own self in those environments, right? I mean, that's kind of like, and then
Yeah.
you have then the manifestation of that is you have this great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Following what's the most fun is always a nice way to do it.
So
My
my question for you, like, all right, what's the most fun when it comes to like creating an income?
yeah.
Well, what's the most fun in, whatever that may be?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. And I have that conversation with my dad a lot
Mm.
about what's enjoyable, following going down that route and keep going that way. And in doing that, I found DJing, which just came out of the blue at a music festival at one time when we found the after party spot at this one music festival, Firefly, in Delaware. And after being there one night, I was like, oh, well, this is the spot we're going to be at when the festival closes pretty much every night. Perfect. Then after the first night, I said, I want to bring something there. What can I bring? And we had I was like, oh, we should make a DJ deck. Like, we should make a DJ board. So we had an Angry Orchard 12 pack and we had some friends. I was like, hey, do you guys want to help me make a DJ board and do some arts and crafts? They were like, yeah. So cut this Angry Orchard 12 pack and turned it inside out, had the cardboard facing outward, and then cut it so it was this rectangular piece, taped the edges, cut some circles, put them on there, colored the center, made little jog wheels, and then drew some squares in the center for a MIDI pad, and
Mhm.
then drew some circles up tops for some knobs. And then we're playing music, and when the drop comes, I'm twisting a knob, and it's like I made that drop happen. Like, oh, how great! And so I bring this back to the after party, and I say to the guy, "Hey man, do you mind if I set up my DJ deck?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, go for it. Do whatever you want." And so I clear off this table and set up this cardboard, and he's got a speaker going on, and I'm like, I'm yelling to the crowd, all right, y'all ready for this? Let's go. And then I turn a knob and the beat drops and I'm like, just behind the table. Like I got the music going and I'm not doing anything. But
Right.
it's a blast.
Right. Well,
And
right.
yeah, so we did this for a couple days and then the festival ended and I said to myself, wow, that was so much fun. I could tell I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't follow that. I was like, this is
Oh,
so much fun. I have to follow it for myself. I have
right,
to
right,
continue
right.
this.
Well,
And
that's beautiful because you went with it with play about in regards to like
yeah.
a playful aspect, but then you're
Hmm.
like, oh, I can do this in more ways. And look, there's people out there who are getting paid for it.
Yeah. 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 And I'm getting paid for it too, doing it now. Like my DJing career is going on 3 years and playing at bars and clubs. Like there's boring sections, but there's also really fun sections too. And I'm making good money doing it. Like
Right on, right
and
on.
then just talking with other DJs and networking. I did a karaoke gig this past weekend. I've never done karaoke before, but I met a guy, or it was in a group text. Anybody available to do karaoke this Friday? And I
Mm.
said, well, I'm free and available, but I've never done it before, and I don't have the equipment, so just I'm open to doing it. So he connects me with the guy. I worked for 3 hours and got paid $300 to
Mm.
do a karaoke gig. Made $100 an hour. I'm shocked at that. Like this is so great, and that's just one of the things that come up
Right, right. And
from it.
you got to show up, you get the equipment, and you play some music, and people
Yeah.
enjoyed,
And
and
people are
then
so happy, and they're like, "You're so great at this," and I'm like, "That's hilarious. This is my first time doing it." But
cool.
somewhat decent mic skills, being comfortable, being able to talk to people, and yeah, something like that will come from it. Like,
Right,
oh, I'm shocked.
right. That's
Yeah,
neat. Well, so then, there's going to be another step, another iteration, how that grows and expands. But you don't know what that looks like exactly. You don't know all the details, but that's the next thing, a natural progression. It's going to
Yeah.
expand,
Hmm. Yep.
right?
Yeah. My dad and I have always talked about following the money versus following the fun.
Yeah.
And that's always a thing that I go back and forth on. It's because it's way more easier to follow the fun. And at times it's attractive to follow the money, but the money isn't always the fun. Isn't always enjoyable. And yeah, it's like a whole conversation, a whole subject in itself. Follow the money or follow the fun.
Well, there's also a piece that keeps popping in my thoughts the last few minutes as we're talking, and it has to do with sometimes the thing that you started when it's fun, like was use DJing.
Hmm.
It's like there's gonna be points where you're gonna have to like do something that doesn't feel fun to keep the main thing that is fun.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know, what that look is or exactly looks like. Maybe it's like you got to clean your equipment, or you got to pack up at the end of the night, or
Yeah.
you got to go out and market yourself. You got to make new connections. You got to break the ice, with new possibilities.
Hmm.
Maybe you have to step out there and do something you're not comfortable with, but at the end, it keeps the fun growing in bigger ways. Like so, sometimes I'm also struggling. I don't say struggle, but like finding what is that thing and how do I overcome my own, or how to overcome the boredom of certain paperwork
Hmm.
perhaps that goes along with
Yeah.
it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah. It's like because there's definitely parts that are not fun, um, that do support the fun, like for sure. Uh, I don't know if like getting an assistant or getting some help for the parts that are not fun is the move. I feel like that's a good route when you
Mm,
can. The things that are kind of, oh, I got to do this again. I hate this part. Like maybe that's like an indication to get some help or get
mm.
somebody else to do it. Um, yeah, that's part of it. And then yeah, the other part that I'll entertain, go back and forth, because like doing private events is different than doing the bars and clubs or the
Mm.
underground DJing scene. And this like just finding the right way, or an enjoyable way to market. I guess that's part of
Mm.
it. Finding an enjoyable way to market yourself.
Mm. That
Yeah,
is true.
yeah, that's part of it. The meeting that I see you at, I'll be up late Monday, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta go to this meeting on Tuesday morning. Oh no.
I know it's early-ish.
Yeah,
It's not that
and
crazy,
it's
but
and it's
yeah.
not even that early. It's nine
It's
a.m.
9 o'clock, right? I've been part of
9
meet
a.m.
groups that are 6:45 meetup. I'm like, oh man,
Exactly.
no thanks.
Exactly. I'm like, this. I want to do the private events, but then I gotta go to this meeting every week. And all right, is that something I suck it up, or is that something where I just keep find a different way to network? Thankfully, so I got some good experience. I was a realtor for a little bit of time, maybe about 6 months, and one thing that I did take away from it that was good was they would just teach you to practice calling your sphere of influence, or your friends, or just everybody you know, and just be having conversations.
Mm.
And hey, Johnny, it's been a while. How have you been? Like catch up with them for a while. Oh, this is what I've been up to, and chat and whatnot. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm starting a DJing company, or I own a DJing company, and I've been pushing that for the last couple months. Hey, if you know anybody who's getting married, or anybody
Mm.
who's celebrating any sweet 16s or bar mitzvahs, can you give them my business card, or can you connect me with them? Like that would be a huge help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like perfect. And then I got to have a phone call with somebody that I haven't talked to for a while. And then I end it with like, hey, if you know anybody that's getting married, my buddy Doug's a wedding DJ.
So let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
what is the motivation behind that call?
Part of it is the drop in the plug at the end is the hey, um, can you refer me out to your friends and anybody you come across? But it's also a nice like catching up
Yeah.
aspect as well. And so that's it's more enjoyable. That is enjoyable.
So
So
that's where you find the fun in the marketing.
yeah, that's definitely an enjoyable aspect. Also, just chatting with people as you go. See, when I was doing real estate, it always felt off to make to plug in my, oh, I'm a realtor, by the way. If you know anybody buying or selling a house, here's my card, and let me know. Or like, oh yeah, here's my card, and then not even say anything, and then, oh, you're a realtor? Oh yeah, in case you know anybody, yeah. But doing that was, I wasn't fully behind it.
Mm.
So promoting a product and service that I was kind of lackluster about was created some cognitive dissonance. Like,
Mm.
oh, and then I gotta tell them I'm a realtor at the end of this conversation. I gotta push that in somehow, and it didn't feel as natural.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So I know there's people out there, and I've seen it a variety of times, um, that they're really good at making money and doing what they got to do to make money, flipping cars, selling products, doing this and doing that, and not being super tied into, do I enjoy buying and selling cars? Do I enjoy doing this and that? And they're good at doing it for the money. And I've always kind of, should I get better at doing things that I don't enjoy? Or should I focus more on the things I do enjoy? And I think from the influence that I've gotten from my dad, it's focus on the things you do enjoy.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you on that on that conversation. I've also come to, because of my studies, realize there's, just like certain people are athletes, certain people are mathematicians, certain people are artists, certain people are, as far as art goes, are into painting or drawing or music. We just have different powers, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
different areas where we don't thrive. We have different areas where we're kind of neutral, and areas where we just, we fall backwards. And I think some people that you notice that are like that, because this is my observation, is that, and it can be deciphered of what it is, that it's like, what is that blueprint? But like certain personalities just really good at that kind of thing, flipping cars, like you said, or
Yeah.
just making that money, because it is not like it's not a spiritual connection. But for some people, there is a spiritual connection there, and it has to be the right intention. It has to be,
Yeah.
and this is where we get into, like, the personality tests.
Yeah.
And if you get into like the philosophy community and the metaphysics community, there's things called human design, and the gene keys, and the I Ching, and of course there's the astrology, and different forms, and there's different forms of all the astrology, and that's consciousness laid on top of planetary movements. That's kind of what that's about, if I could demystify it. But like, you look at people's individual personality styles, well, there's certain people that need to be the artist, and certain people need to be the administrative person, and some people need to, that's where they thrive. So,
Yeah.
and not all people are made the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Is that not everyone's the same. Not everyone's personality type is the same.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Some people thrive and are like on fire when they are in the lead, and some people drown in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who drown in position are what make, they're the kind of person that does the mid work, or is like the B player on the team. Not like, we each need to play a role, so we all can't be a pitcher, we all can't be the catcher, we all can't be the first baseman, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it's
Yeah.
coming across. But
Yeah.
in finding, and so the challenge I see, and part of our challenge in this world is, we're strive to fit a certain mold so specifically, it doesn't give any room for our individual unique expression.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a drawback of yeah, trying to figure it out. And then
But we figure it out by what's fun for us. Like, some people who are into the numbers and the lines, like, they have fun with it.
mhm.
My brother's one of those people. Like, he just loves, civil engineering, and engineering, the principles and the order, and the alignment of everything.
Yeah.
It's really cool to watch.
Uh,
It's not my power.
yeah. Yeah, that is part of the beauty of life is that everyone has their own specialty, special aspect, their own unique mixture.
Hmm.
What gets them excited, what gets them
Right.
feeling good. Yeah, finding that is unique for everyone
Hmm.
about which what it is for them, what it is for you, what it is for me.
Right. Right.
Yeah, 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 I'm so thankful I found DJing. Like that's something that's so enjoyable. And then like it's one of those things where, oh, you mean I can get paid for this? And I can get paid well for this? Wait, this is the price that some people charge? Oh boy. Oh wow. Okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then yeah, I'll see wedding DJs, and it's still even within DJing, it's it's so much fun to see people dancing and whatnot. And so I guess it's as I focus on doing private events and versus like the bars and clubs, which in my head I think are a bit more fun, or the underground scene, which is fun,
Hmm.
is to remember that you're here to make those people dance. Like
Hmm.
it's the same regardless of where you're doing it, and to focus on that part. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you think weddings, because I've been to a couple weddings. Weddings can be really boring, really boring. You could a large majority of the audiences are sometimes just sitting down, or it's an older crowd and they're not looking to dance. You might have seven, eight people on a dance floor, or maybe 12, and there's 30 that are sitting down. You're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Am I doing it? And you're not doing anything wrong. You're like,
No, it's just that, but it's just the nature of weddings themselves, and there's a whole
yeah,
spectrum because I've been to a couple weddings where it was like the best,
yeah,
exciting. Everyone's dancing, everyone's having a blast, everyone's just loving on each other, and like in great ways.
yeah, exactly. And it really does vary.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very very interesting. Yeah,
yeah. Weddings are one of those things. Um, yeah. I find it interesting. You get a group of people together, and people of all ages. People might not like the party. People might really like the party. You just see this whole group of people interact for a handful of hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good many culture. So what what is it about dance that's so great for you to help people engage in and witness? What is that?
I think for me it's the
Mm.
the connection between the music and the people dancing, and me choosing the music to help people dance, and you feel connected. Like
Mm.
dance floors are something interesting because everybody's listening to the same music, they're feeling the same beat, they're dancing to the same beat. Everybody's feeling it at the same time. And so it brings everybody together, and even with the DJ, everybody's kind of brought together. So I guess it's the connection part that
Mm.
I enjoy the most. Yeah.
That's neat. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we talk about dance, and I know you do some DJing. Like, there's in the like spiritual space of the healing communities,
Mhm.
like ecstatic dancing is
Oh
is
yeah.
is
Yeah.
growing. It's I definitely not on the pulse of the movement, but
Hmm.
10 years, it's been kind of
Yeah.
expanding in popularity.
Nice.
I don't know. That's my perspective. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like I've heard the word ecstatic dancing really the last 5 years, maybe the last
Yeah.
4 years. What do you know about that?
So I go to a group called Dance Medicine Philly out
Hmm.
in Philadelphia, and they've been hosting ecstatic dances for I don't know how long, but I've been going to that group for like 3, 4 years now. And it's the same thing. It's the connection that's there.
Mm.
And everybody there is dancing together to the same music. And one of their things is that they push being sober throughout the event, so you can really connect with yourself and connect with others. And if you feel some energy that's stagnant within your body, you can kind of move through it. And there's a healing aspect to that as well. Just energy getting stuck, and you can, oh, I noticed my shoulder's a little tight, and you can do a handful of motions just to loosen that out.
100%.
And yeah, that's so I see it, and then I see like there's a couple groups that do it, and they do them all over. There's groups in Washington D.C., there's groups in New York. I know there's a few groups in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
There's some by the New Jersey coast. It's great. It's really great to see because everywhere you go, you're kind of getting the same format. You get a yoga or a movement meditation warm up. You get a DJ that plays for an hour to 2 hours, and then you get some sound healing at the end, whether they got ringing or singing bowls or chimes or gongs. Just cools everyone down. And then another aspect that I really enjoy is they have a sharing circle at the end where everyone gets into a circle and they have a microphone and they say, if anybody feels called to share about their experience today or what they went through, anything they felt, the floor is yours. And so even that just kind of brings everybody together and makes it a really nice official ending to it.
Wow.
This is so great. This is humans being humans, coming together, dancing, which they've done for thousands of years together, and just being humans. It's like, oh yeah, this is enjoyable. This is genuine.
Well, it kind of ties to your story about going around that study you're talking about. Essentially, you're experiencing gratitude, and you're in that circle. When you're speaking, it takes courage. It takes all these. It takes openness. You're being raw.
Mm-hmm.
You're connected with yourself after moving your body. And you really do connect to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of it, you're being respectful. You're honoring somebody. You're listening to where they are, and you're connecting in joy when they're and probably other levels of words. All connection, like you said. There's something that happens in the genetics when that occurs. There's something that happens in the psyche that it just produces higher, healthier quality people.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I say often. Right? Yeah, go for it.
No, I was going to say I've only had a handful of experiences, but every time it opens you in a good way. It like softens you if you're a man versus being so hard and angry or tough.
Yeah,
it helps you relax.
Yeah, it does. It gives you a different side to. It gives you a different example. Follower. Yeah, It's I'm in the rave community too, and they go late night and they party very well. They party hard. Like
Until the sun comes up. Until
the sun comes up. They got loud music going, and there's always stragglers there at 6, 7 a.m. Like, all right, guys, the event's over. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, type of deal.
Right.
And so I do that a lot, and that's works out with my schedule well. I can go to those events after I'm done DJing.
All right.
I go late. But the ecstatic dances, that's like my hippie community. And whenever I see them, it's like I'm recharging my social battery, or it's like it's rejuvenating, where the other is a lot of fun and you can get kind of real tired from it. The ecstatic dances, I leave feeling, even though I'm tired, I'm leaving feeling more whole, more
right,
more
versus
connected.
Versus the rave scene is what you're saying, right?
The ecstatic dance scene.
No, but you're saying comparing them, right?
Yeah, comparing the two, and the rave scene is so much fun, and I'm so happy I'm a part of that as well. But it's different. It's different because the ecstatic dance scene, everyone's sober, everyone's there to kind of work on themselves and be open and honest and real, and have a good time. And then the rave scene, it's all about the music and like, oh, who's playing? What type of music are we listening to? Dancing probably just as hard, but you're not being as real. You're not being as open. You're not being as raw with people. You might sometimes have a social front up.
Right. So you're describing though is like in the ecstatic dance, there's a different level of nourishment.
Yes.
Right. Oh, yes. That's super intriguing because you're let's just say you're dancing, but it's a different combination of intentions.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It's very intentional. Whereas the rave scene, I don't know how intentional it really is. I'm sure it's a lot less intentional.
Well, but you said, but the intention is okay, good music, who's playing, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, have fun.
What's your style? Because everyone's
Uh-huh.
putting on a style, and but there's definitely a social aspect to it.
Hmm.
But connection with friends,
Yeah, yeah, that part's great.
but it's
Um,
a different intention. Like with this
different,
fact, it's like
different intention.
it's a
You're
connection
going
with
out.
spirit, right?
Yeah, the other you're connected with your spirit and your fellow brothers and sisters. The rave scene is more like a night out. Like let's go have some fun.
Let steam out, but just have a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's really nice to have both sides of it. And
Well,
I
that's,
can tell when I'm too far away from
mm,
the ecstatic dance scene. Like, oh, it's I'm overdue
mm,
for a dance.
that's interesting. It's good. It's good to hear kind of your share on that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm so happy I found it too. Like it's one of those things that just come up. Somebody offers it to you, and you can say yes or no.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah. The way I found it. Have you ever heard of Beard Fest?
Yeah, very much so.
You've heard of it. Have you ever been
Been
there?
there.
You've been
Yeah.
there. Oh,
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I realized at that festival, I realized I didn't like jam bands. That that was the takeaway. Like, oh, I'm not a jam band person. All right, cool. I'm glad I know this now. Uh,
Right.
but I saw it was like three guys dancing, and they were doing some contact improv on the dance floor and rolling over each other and crawling around and doing flips and whatnot and a lot of contact improv. And after the group was done playing, I said, "Where did you guys learn to dance like that? That's really cool." They said, "Oh, we're a part of this group called Dance Medicine Philly. Like
Mm.
we host dances all the time. Our next one's on July 14th. You should come out." And I said, "No way, my birthday's on July 14th." I'm like, "Perfect. We're putting the dance on for you." Said, okay. And so I showed up and got to experience it. And I was like, "Oh, this is great."
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's one of those synchronistic type of things that come together. That,
Well, but that's what happens at music festivals. I think the kind of people that are attracted to that, they operate kind of in that intuitive space already.
mm,
And I think a lot of people are doing the 9 to 5, they're crunching it out because that's the what part of our life requires. But they found an outlet where they're able to connect to that side of themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a like music festivals and also that is it's I heard somebody describe it well. It's like a space that's created that's outside of regular society. So
A hundred
regular
percent.
rules don't apply here.
It's got its own rules.
Exactly. Yeah, you
Right.
could be
Right.
free, you could do whatever you want, you could stay up as long as you want. Like yeah, and then so it gives you that space to kind of follow that. What do I want to do? And kind of tap into yourself. And then
Right.
yeah, yeah, and we all have that internal guidance system of what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and the more we tap into that, and the more we follow that, that's the right move.
Well, at a deeper kind of metaphysical level, when we follow that experience you're describing is that creator aspect of ourselves, where if anyone's ever heard, we create our reality. Well, in part, that's true. And how we create a greater reality is learning to find that vibe and finding that right balance of that spiritual, intuitive connection to this earth structure. This kind of like something has to get done, but there's a blend somewhere of those worlds.
Yeah,
I guess kind of like the purpose, one of the meanings of life, one of the purposes of life is to find that balance that allows you to feel thriving, allows you to feel nourished, and still get the things done that need to get done.
yeah, yeah. That's it seems to come back to that a lot is finding that balance.
Well, I mean, because the far end of too much time in festival space is nothing gets accomplished. Nothing's produced that's of value for others.
Hmm.
You connect to yourself in great ways. You connect and build great relationships. Though, how does that translate into you know having land and having a home
Yeah.
and putting good food on the table, and this is like where I see kind of society's breaking down,
Uh,
and I think something new has to happen. Not sure exactly what that is exactly.
yeah.
But I know it's more connection at a spiritual level. It's more connection to our earth.
Uh,
um and I could wax poetic about that all for a long time, but I
yeah.
think there's I think a lot of the musical and spiritual communities are wanting to live more congruent in that flow state.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good takeaway is that if you do too much in the festival realm, you might not be well, you're not making much money unless you're working or you're doing other things, but you're not creating as much. You're having experiences and you're creating
Right.
moments for yourself, but you're not necessarily creating something to share with others. Or yeah,
But
it's
it can be that. I think it can be that. Like,
yeah, yeah, one
I
of the
guess in some way you could have like a musical bus service, and if you
yeah,
want to make music
exactly.
your life, like make it your life.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I remember reading is that every job out there is in service of somebody else. Every job, every role, you're serving somebody else. You're helping somebody else.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's good. How can I help other people? What ways?
Right. And the other side is allow people to help you too. It's like, if you're at the festival and you're like looking around, looking for the right vibe, and someone comes by with a bottle of water, like, hey, and they're offering, like, yeah, I'll take that bottle of water, you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
little things like that, and how does that, so then it's like take that festival experience, but how does that translate into walk around at the mall or pop in the Wawa or whatever it is? It translates to holding the door for other people,
Yeah.
or smiling at somebody or just being
Mhm.
polite, little things like that.
Yeah. 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 Doing little things like paying for somebody's coffee, paying for somebody's meal, something like that. Because that's a because really, a friend said that the money is really just uh, it's really just energy. And
Right.
so where you spend your money, where you give it away, it's just energy that you're giving and trading and whatnot. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I've
agree.
made it an effort to be more giving. I've noticed at times I've been like more sheltering my money or more like more defensive of it, more protective of it. And I remember thinking like that's not really how I want to be. Like I would see my dad when I was younger, and he would always give money to homeless people. If they asked, he'd give them 10 or 20 bucks. He wouldn't care if they're spending it on drugs or like alcohol. It's not. You give them the choice of what they want to spend it on. Like
Mm.
here, it's more like I'm giving you energy. You choose what you want to do with it. But you're in a not as great position, and I'm in a little bit better. So it's natural for me to help you where I can.
Mm. Well, there's a great story about a similar concept. It's called That Something. The
Okay.
story is called That Something.
Okay.
And I found an audio version of it put on my YouTube channel. It
Yeah.
comes from writings in the early 1900s from
Yeah.
the family that one of the family members who developed chiropractic.
Hmm.
And it's about a homeless person during the Depression asking for money from some rich looking guy, and the guy gave him a business card, and I forget all the details, but it had to do with the words "I will,"
Oh yeah.
and essentially um, the lesson of the whole thing was once the guy who was impoverished started saying "I will" versus blaming the world, or he was actively doing something about it.
Hmm.
Think good things just started happening where no one could get a job. He just started to work for free, and they just started paying him because they felt bad about him working for free. And
Yeah.
so he got a job during the Depression when nobody could get a job. And then he would just step up and be helpful to others. And so while he, was the lowest man on the totem pole, he was always there to help other people. And so when someone was on vacation or was sick, called out sick, the people up top go, "Oh, that person helps everybody. He knows what to do." They just stuck him up there. just because he went around saying, I will help, I will do this, I can do that for you. And
Yeah.
so in that positive mindset, he just kept saying, I will help, I will.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately he ended up imagine in Chicago, the third most important job in all of society, just because he was saying I will, and people didn't know who he was, but they knew his reputation. They didn't know where he came from, but they saw his actions, and just because of every time he kept saying I will and kept stepping up to the plate, he just kept getting the go ahead, so to speak, in life, where everybody was trying to take for their own, take for their own, take for their own.
Yeah.
Right. So this attitude of gratitude and positivity and that go get it, go get it mindset, like create the reality that you're wanting. And it just became as a byproduct, as a side effect. And
Yeah.
that story, it's called That's Something. It's very powerful. Anyone wants to get a copy of that, to send me a message and I'll send you the YouTube link.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's so then that's a good point. Let's plug in your website. So what's your YouTube channel that they can find that at?
Right, right. So if you look my name down in the corner there,
Yeah.
that's the proper spelling. But pretty much in any social media, if you type in Dr. Kevin G, all one word, you'll get to my page, Dr. Kevin G. The website's drkeving.com. My YouTube channel is my full name, Dr. Kevin Gyurina. And I've only found one other person in the world with the same name, and he might be a distant relative.
Oh,
Uh, but there's only a few Gyurinas in the entire world, so you really can't mix it up too much.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's yeah, man. It's so nice chatting and connecting other people that share similar stories. Like everybody kind of knows it's about following what feels good,
Hmm.
but so often we get sidetracked.
Well, feeling good can go the wrong way,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
it
I mean,
can.
it can.
Yeah.
And so there's the conversation of boundary and self-regulation and the joy. There's also joy. There's also great fun and doing something that takes time and effort to do and then is accomplished. There's sometimes greater joy and greater fun in that than the instantaneous gratification. But don't get me wrong, it goes
Yeah,
both ways.
yeah.
As long as the instantaneous gratification is wonderful and it's delightful, and that's where surprises live.
Mhm.
It's great. Though if I just went with what felt good, that's where traps can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just this morning I knew I was due to go on a run.
Mm.
But I said, let me just get outside, let me go on a walk instead. And then I went on a walk and I sat outside and I stretched a little bit. I'm due to go on a run. That's not changing. It's still the exercise part of like I gotta go put in this effort. And then you feel great after. You feel good after and you're like
Right.
kinda know what's next. Like, all right, I'm due to clean up a little bit before I record this podcast. And then yeah, it's just doing the things you kind of know you should do, or you kind of like, oh, I should do that. Um, yeah, you feel good. It feels good getting things done, getting things accomplished.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I don't have it handy, so I'm gonna butcher it, but there's more and more people are waking up to the idea that our feelings, our emotions, and the sensations we have in our body are then that is in the world of hormones, or also known as neurotransmitters and serotonin, dopamine, those kind of things.
Yeah.
A, certain neurotransmitters that feel good when they're released only happen when we accomplish things that take time and effort to overcome. Now,
Hmm.
certain things are we get that positive vibe because we go outside, breathe the fresh air, and go for a walk, just like you said. And some are the instantaneous surprises. So there's different ways in which we get that good vibe. Some are more in the moment, and some are that take over time that go with that deep satisfaction of sticking to something and overcoming a
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because there is definitely some good enjoyment from accomplishing something,
Hmm.
working on something, and finishing. And it's been on your to-do list for such a long time. I gotta get to this. I
Yeah.
gotta finish it. And you're like,
Yeah.
great. I can like eat food and not feel guilty versus do nothing for 2 hours and then eat food and then feel
Yeah.
guilty that I didn't
Right.
do that thing when I had the time.
Right. Well, even this, like, you have this podcast, you've taken some effort to put some systems in place, and now you're going out meeting people, and then you have to align the schedules, and then you got to actually come together, and then there's the, whatever the edit you're going to do, and then put it online, and
Yeah,
then hopefully people see it and then vibe with
yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I know in my
yeah.
world, I help coach people on consciousness and becoming better healers, and I am in the midst of teaching a group for 7 weeks, and we're in week 6, and like, I can feel the momentum of we're almost finished, but there's also that challenge of making sure I stay up with my daily task while I'm coaching them right now. But I know in this next 2 weeks, it's going to feel really good to say to them, "Congratulations, you've completed the work."
Hmm.
And it's going to feel good to me because I know I stuck to what I need to do to build the system I need to build to help other people get the results that they want to get, but also in what I want to deliver. It's and it becomes this beautiful thing. And the thing
Yeah,
that's going to hold it all together is me showing up every day. Even some days I didn't necessarily want to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's big, and it goes back to that helping others
Mm-hmm.
aspect. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. So yeah, I found something that I get great joy in learning about the information and great joy putting it together for others to digest. And then I'm getting great joy helping them helping them get answers where they're confused in the process I'm trying to show them. And then in turn, as they get clear on it, it helps them produce more in their life, which then I get feedback on, which brings my spirits to higher places because I helped other people become better in their life, and what they're doing is helping other people in their life. It's like this passive forward vibe, right?
yeah,
And, and when I think about it and when I talk about it, like, boy, the juice just goes up and up and up and up.
yeah, yeah. What a
That,
great thing!
that
What a
feels
great
good.
thing!
Well,
Yeah.
you when people are on the dance floor and they're vibing to the song, the track that you picked,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the dance floor just doubled. Yeah, and you're feeling
Yeah,
that vibe.
yeah, yeah. No, it's so enjoy, and that's one of the parts of enjoyment of being a human is connecting with others,
That's
helping
right. There it is.
others, meeting others, being face to face. Um, That's another reason that I love this podcast is because
Mm,
I can just chat with people.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's exactly what I was
Sometimes,
thinking about. That's exactly what I was thinking about coming in here. I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna be talking for the next hour and a half just about things I enjoy to talk about. I'm gonna go in a flow and like what a great thing.
yeah, yeah. What a great thing. Yeah, there's times I get caught up thinking about like, oh, I gotta edit the podcast after this, and then I gotta post about the podcast. I gotta create a thumbnail. I have to do this and that, and all the other things that aren't as exciting. And I guess the takeaway is just focus on the exciting part. Focus on the good thing, and then yeah, just get the other things done, or maybe like get some help with it, or just focus on the good aspect of it. Because
Well, well, to speak to those points, because you gave me clarity on something, but now I'm already starting to do it. It's like when it comes to the thumbnail piece, right? You got these little pieces to wrap this whole thing up in a bow and
yeah,
send it out to the world.
yeah,
Oh, I'm now exploring AI with
yeah,
creating an image, so I get to be creative and then see what it creates for me,
yeah,
and so that's like up the fun quotient on that.
yeah,
Little things like that, little things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's really good.
cool, man. Yeah,
Feels like a good time to wrap it up. Yo.
I think we're in a good spot. I mean, we talked about following the vibe and the vibe to the connections that bring you up to
Mhm.
better places in your heart. I mean, like
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
yeah, yeah, it really is. No, that's the right thing to look at. Um, Anything you want to touch on before we go? So I know you mentioned just a couple things that you work on. I know you do chiropractic work. I know
Yeah, yeah,
you said you're leading a group of people to improve their lives. I know you
yeah.
do a lot of things. So I would say touch on that a
Well,
little bit.
So in essence, I help people balance their mind, body, and their being, that's their spirit, that's their life, and what happens when we have aspects of our life that are not enjoyable is there's something not balanced, and and so I first started in the physical world. I help people with their structure, and there's nuances within that. There's just unlocking stress patterns, and then there's restructuring the whole entire global pattern posture. I specialize in both those modes, but also started doing some additional training where we found out about, of course, chemistry. That means our nutrition and our toxins in life. And within that world of body meets the brain meets nutrition, there's reflexes. And this is automatic movements our body has. So there's a world of specialty called kinesiology. So I'm a chiropractic kinesiologist who specializes in toxins, neurology, that means emotions and our beliefs, and how to bring them to balance. And so in that world, I started, we look at all the factors that can interfere with the processes of the body, from Wi-Fi and cell phone signals to heavy metals in our air and our water, to our community and our personal relationships and how that affects us. So all these factors, when studied individually, are shown to affect our DNA, are shown to affect our blood chemistry. And if I could point to one factor that ties it all together, it's how our brain, our thoughts, our beliefs, and that how it affects our behaviors. That changes our blood factors, it changes our posture. And so where my work really lives is helping people unlock emotional trauma, unlock mental patterns of thinking, unlock belief structures that keep them walled into certain places so they can start to then thrive as they access their true self in a self that's healed. So that means you can go about being confident yet without bowling over somebody. It means you can go forth and be successful yet maintain that humbleness and all those kind of things of that nature. So I teach people about natural law and how that plays out in the body, about how our mind affects us. And I teach people specific skill sets, whether they want to just employ it at home or for their office, or they want to translate into a one-on-one healing business.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it was, kind of recapping it all. I help people one-on-one in a clinic way, no drugs, no surgery, fix their body, fix their brain. And I help people coach their mindset and their skill set to create better healers. And
nice. Yeah, man, it's a saying, you know, sometimes we're our own worst enemy. So,
indeed. So with that being said, in that worst, it's pattern recognition. Can you recognize where that is? It's not that it happens. We all have it. It's, can you recognize it and then shift how you respond to that differently? That's part of the game of life right there.
yeah,
Can you love yourself in greater ways?
yeah, yeah. Accept yourself,
Mm-hmm.
improve, get rid of the things that aren't serving you,
Mm-hmm.
get more enjoyment out of life, really.
Right. Right.
So we're all looking for. So
That's right.
awesome, man. Just
Yeah.
go over one more time how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. DrKeving.com, drkeving.com. Or you type my name or that phrase, Dr. Kevin G, in any social media, you'll be able to find and connect to me. Send me a text, connect on one of the social medias. I have a number of resources to help you along the way. From an open access app, there's free content to kind of dive into the holistic realm of things. And there's paid content, workshops, and coaching. So
nice. And I know
drkeving.com. Yeah.
and I know you offer a lot of good information on those sites too that kind of touches on that too.
Yes. Yes. So I like to cite where I get my sources. I love to share where I gain my knowledge, because this, knowledge is power, but it's the right application of that power that's important. So I love finding information. That's something that just comes to me. And then where I think where a lot of us are just, well, how do you apply that? What's important? And the art of
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you for the work that you do. That's sure the human race is appreciative of you
Well,
doing
thank
what
you,
you do.
and I'll pass on the good vibes as well. And for all those that are listening, keep following that good vibe heart connection, and you're just going to learn to use it in better and better ways. If I can help you along the way, I will be honored to do so.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well,
Yeah,
good,
thanks,
good. Thank
Dougie.
you. Thanks.
All right.
This has been great. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
That's right. I'll be there.
Cool, man. All right. I'll
See you
talk to you
then.
soon, man. You got it. Take
Bye
care.
bye.